And the program you're still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Well, the Sierra Leone Social Work Steering Committee will be organizing a two-day National Social Work Conference starting tomorrow, 21st March, on the theme Respecting Diversity through Joint Social Action. The conference aims to bring together social work practitioners, educators and social welfare agencies to discuss, validate and adopt the regularization of a national professional association for social workers, among others. The steering committee comprises social work schools, social workers, Sierra Leone and the Sierra Leone Association of Social Workers, and they are working in collaboration with the Ministry of Social Welfare. World Social Work Day is observed every year on the third Tuesday in March. This year in Sierra Leone it will be celebrated on the 21st of March, which is tomorrow, to recognize the hard work and diligence of social workers, their works in advocating for social justice, human rights and social development, while promoting the best practices in social work. This year's celebration with international theme Respecting Diversity through Joint Social Action perfectly fits into social workers' situation in Sierra Leone as a profession seeking full-scale regularization and structuring. Well, for more on this, I have in the studios the coordinator of the steering committee, Michael Conteh, Esquire. Good morning, Mr. Conteh, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Shako, and good morning to
In the first place, social work as a discipline, started in this country in the early 2000s, 2020, around the 2020, 2, 3, 4, as the case may be. But the thing is that how far has Sierra Leone as a country, before going to talking about, the steering committee, about you are a chair. Let us talk about, how far has Sierra gone to recognize the efforts of social workers.
Sierra Leone has gone progressively very far compared to how social work profession started in the country. You would agree with me that when the concept of social work started, there were only about 1 or 2 universities dealing with social work. Now we have 6 universities offering social work education in Sierra Leone. And the interest from applicants and students have increased dramatically. For those who do not know, social work profession touches and concerns almost every aspect in a society because it promotes social change, it promotes cohesion, development, empowerment of people and community. When the person is sick with some physical health, the doctor may be concerned about that physical health. The social worker is concerned about psychosocial aspect to give psychosocial support to that individual to ensure that it has a full-scale healing process. When you talk about circumstances of street children, whilst there could be structures in place to ensure that these children go off from the streets, the social worker is supposed to look at the child protection. Why did the child go to street? And if the child returns back home, what's the protection of that child to prevent the circumstance where it may not repeat itself? The social worker is also looking at circumstances where there may be gender abuse, and it advocates for the empowerment of both men and women. When there was a time for COVID in this country, as much as they were looking, the healthcare practitioners were looking at the healthcare aspect, there was a need for us to have a psychosocial pillar, which was very, very integral in the process of fighting COVID. And to a very large extent, that's one of the reasons why you had situations of social safety net being given to people because of those circumstances. So yes, social work has had a tremendous progress since it started, and we're continuing to have the progress. If it is because of this that we are seeking to have it fully professionalized, regulated, professionalized and regulated, or also more importantly, whilst you professionalize it, whilst you regulate it, there's a need for us to have a welfare organization that looks into not only the ethical standards through which these professionals go through their profession, but also it can work in an intervention mechanism where if there is a need for us to have negotiations with the employers, there's supposed to be an association. That's why we want to have this national.
Okay, like you also have, a professional association, of those in social work to be part of, which is a good idea. The thing is that, in this country, since, like you mentioned, it's now gaining momentum. When it started, it was only 2 universities that were offering social work. Now, it has spread across. Most of the universities are now, actually offering social work, which means it is gaining, the recognition it deserves. Because in some other countries, like for example in Europe or the Americas, social work pays. These are some people that are highly paid because of the nature of what they do. Now in Sierra Leone, as you go ahead, trying to form a kind of a professional body for social workers, what are your expectations? Because the thing is that even though social work is a selfless job, it is humanity first. Because you take care of people who are in very difficult situations. Because your work is to ensure that you move people from that very difficult situation to a much more pleasant one. So in as much as yes, you are going about to form this particular professional association, what are your expectations from especially decision makers? Those are the apex of making decisions in this country.
So as you mentioned in your intro, one of the objectives for this conference is to have an association, a professional association. You do not want to have a negotiation with the structures in a fragmented manner, where you have different set of people going with fragmented voice, and it may not be louder. So what we're doing is to make use of this different strengths, the strengths of the different organizations, make it as one, and ensure that we have an establishment of a professional association. It would be this established professional association that would lead the way forward to ensuring that negotiations are done, whether it's through talking about the enactment of a bill that looks into the profession, regulation of the profession, whether it's a set of standards for ethics and ethical behaviors of these professionals, whether it has to do with income management and income negotiation, whether it has to do with welfare negotiation, all of those things. We don't want to have fragmented voice for that. So amongst many other reasons, we are doing it during the course of the World Social Work Day. We're starting it tomorrow, which is the World Social Work Day. Right across the world, other countries will be celebrating the World Social Work Day. So we are joining our counterparts to celebrate it. But we are joining them in a unique manner, whereas we are bringing together practitioners, educators, students, and even social welfare agencies, collaborating with the government, the Ministry of Social Welfare, which is the supervisory ministry for social work in Sierra Leone. We are collaborating with them. Schools offering social work, we are also collaborating, we are also partnering with them to ensure that we achieve this. So no sooner we have the establishment of this association, we will have the opportunity where we will have a single voice negotiating and promoting the profession in this country, but also more importantly.
But then, Michel, the fact also is, many people just think that social work is about taking care of mentally, retarded persons, or the aged. Some people do not know that social work goes beyond that. Social work is a profession. It is a welfare profession, that seeks to ensure that people are brought from a very difficult situation to a much more, comfortable or pleasant, as the case may be. But then, as you being part of it, being a chairman of a steering committee that is in this business of ensuring that you have a professional body or association, for social workers in this country, what more do you have to tell the public about, somebody offering social work? What are the job opportunities out there for him?
So you talked about,
apart from the aged or the mentally retarded people also.
So for the sake of clarity, taking care of the aged and mentally retarded people are part of the different aspects or different ways to the profession.
Yes.
Because there are different categories within which the profession participates. You have child
But it
protection.
is this mindset, it is perception, perception kind of way how people think. People see social workers as just who will be working with, for example, like I mentioned, the mentally retarded people, the aged, as the case may be. But I know, but the profession itself goes far much more beyond that. There are other aspects to social work. That is what I want you to actually educate the public on, the opportunities for social workers out there, apart from those who mentioned.
One of the best institutions in this country you refer to as NACIT. The work of NACIT is social protection. Social security is under social protection. Social protection is an aspect of social work. So it tells you that amidst the fact that they are dealing with finances, the core value of NACIT is to push forward to protecting income of the people, or income replacement of those who may have retired or those who may have partial loss of their income. That is one aspect. There is an area of child protection. That's an area for social work. There is an area for social policy discussing what sort of policies are fitted for the improvement of society. That is part of social work. They talked about mental health. Whilst the doctors here who deal with the physical health, there is also the importance for us to look at the psychological aspect of these patients. That's an aspect of social work. There is social work education. You fuse it with advocacy. The work of many civil societies are doing the work of social work.
Unknowingly do.
Say?
Unknowingly do.
So that's why there is a need for us to have this establishment of a professional association which promotes the profession. So you know that certain things that you do are caught up within the professional ambit.
But then also in social work, gender issues are part of social work also.
If we are to state everything of social work,
and the thing is, you are trying to form an organization, an association at the time when government has just or Parliament has just enacted the gender act, women's empowerment and gender equality rights. But the thing is, now as you move about celebrating this day, and as an association, of which you've been selected to be, a member of the steering committee, to put, put in structures for social workers in this country. But the question also is, how decentralized is your approach? Because as we always say, Freetown is not Sierra Leone.
I mentioned earlier that there are 6 universities in social work. 2 of them are in Freetown, 1 in Bo, 1 in Kenema, 2 in Makeni. They'll all be represented at this conference.
Okay.
So that's an easy answer to say this conference is going to be decentralized. And as part of our activity plan, we definitely have to have circumstances where we meet with practitioners who may not have the opportunity to come to this conference, to have conversations around them. Interestingly, because of the social makeup of our country, most of the work for social workers is supposed to be out of Freetown. So it tells you that we're going to have targets from right across the country, irrespective of the location, because if you want to have a proper structure for social development in this country, you have to take it from across all areas of the country, whether it's urban, whether it's rural. There's an aspect of rural social work. You want to have social workers there, and a majority of those who have graduated with social work are actually working in other provinces. So, and most of them are going to be part of this conference because it's a conglomeration of practitioners.
Now, I was going to say, and social workers are muchly attached, having finished their courses. What they look for is to work for NGOs. But also social work is also part of community development because as a social worker you are needed in the community. That's why, like you mentioned, most of them are working in provinces, and most of them are working for NGOs. Okay, that is just aside. But the thing is, most of the issues or the challenges this country is facing, most of them are social issues. You look around, you see people daydreaming, you see people hallucinating, You see people in drugs as a result of, post-traumatic stress disorders and all of those. So, as social workers, how would you be felt around? Because your presence, just a day or two to today, we saw the bar association having their AGM. We see Slasw, they go to conferences. You see the medical or dental association going to conferences, AGMs. So how do you intend to make your presence felt?
Without the mile journey, starts with a step. This is the first step. You cannot have a proper publicity of what you're doing without the association in this context. So that's one of the reasons why we want to have the establishment of this association. Of course, eventually, when you mentioned about what social workers are supposed to do and their employment attachments, you want to have a database of these social workers working within these different employment areas. I mentioned when I was at the radio that even within the media space, say for instance, there's supposed to be a social worker here where if you come in the morning, there are issues, there are social issues or psychological issues that you think may impede on your work. You have to have a professional with whom you speak with. And when you speak with that professional, there may be professional advice on how to go with your day. And when you go with your day, that social worker is supposed to ensure that it keeps your information confidential. That's professionalism. Somebody needs to hold that professional accountable if it breaches that particular ethical standard. That is exactly the reason why we want to not only have the association, but want to use this conference to discuss the regularization of the profession, possibly after the establishment of the association, probably through an enactment of a bill.
All right, okay, Michelle. Thank you so much for being with us this morning and continue to be with us. And the program you're still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Let me come back to you because there are some more questions for you to answer. Because social work, as I know, is a very important profession, but for a very long time it has not been seen as such. And in this edition of actually time is not enough, but quickly, in very few seconds, Michelle, people are saying how place is social work the value. Does Leones have a value for social work? Quickly, in very few seconds, because we are done.
Yes, I don't have to value for social work. We may not have reached there yet 100%, but we are gradually reaching there because it's a profession that seeks to empower individuals and community, and everything is important.
All right, so thank you so much. Good morning, Sierra Leone, which came to you live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Many thanks to Michelle Esquire from a committee that has been set up to organize or to properly structure social workers in this country. Many thanks to